All right, guys. So I'd like to talk about the first wave of the Industrial Revolution today. Okay. Talk about some of the energy sources, mention about the mechanisms, what they're powered by, and the means of production. All right. Where it all happens. So before we get there, though, we got to talk a little bit about the Agrarian Revolution. I know I talked briefly about it yesterday towards the end of class. So before we get to this Industrial Revolution, we need to cross some roads here. One of them is, well, agriculture first, food. So there you go. I'll give you guys some time. All right, so what do we got here? So the Agrarian Revolution. So yesterday, maybe, I don't know, looking too far into this, but we started on chapter one talking about the feudal pyramid for protection. Right, I mentioned about the fall of the Roman Empire brought instability. And with that instability, people needed to feel secure and safe, right? They needed to feel protected. And that pyramid was created in order to offer protection for the people. All right, there's a hierarchy. Okay. You guys remember that? All right, I hope so. All right, from there though, you got to move on, and well, food's next, right? You need to have a supply of food here to continue to grow your population, grow your civilization. And this is obviously something that needs to be crossed off first. All right, I know we talked a lot about progression through humanism, and we mentioned about the Renaissance, the artwork, the beauty of it. And then we talked a little bit about some of the enlightened ideas, the scientific revolution. Well, now all these ideas are being compiled together to make life more convenient, right? So we're going to talk about the Industrial Revolution, this topic, okay? And I know I'll hint a little bit about the other topics during this one with nationalism and with imperialism, right? As we talk about some of these countries and their expansion, and how they grow to become these massive uh, empires and modern countries that we know today. All right, real quick, the Agrarian Revolution. What do we know about? What did I talk about yesterday? I forget where I left off. Where did I leave off? Did I talk about a seed drill and all? Jason? Did I?
Yes,
Okay, what about it?
basically the same
Yeah, good job, right? So with modern farming techniques, obviously this doesn't seem like something too out of the ordinary, but for the time, this was something new. And for agriculture, especially, if you get more seeds in the ground, well, chances are you're gonna have a bigger growth, a bigger product, a bigger crop production. Your supply is gonna be higher. With that being said, well, if you have a higher supply of a good, or in this case, food, right? What happens to the price? Higher supply, what happens to the price of it? Yeah, it goes down. Good job. Makes it more affordable for people to buy. Well, if you have more food and it's more affordable, what's gonna happen to the population? Eli, what's gonna happen to this population? Yeah, good job. It's gonna boom. So that being said, you're gonna have more people, and that's good, especially when it comes to protection, right? When you think about military and army, great. But also when it comes to maybe applying the new jobs and new avenues, new futures for some people. Some might be better than others, I get it. But real quick at the seed drill, I know it just looks basic, I know it doesn't seem anything special, but this is making planting a lot faster, more efficient, quicker, and well, you have more of a profit, more of a good. And this is overall gonna help the standard of living of people. It's gonna create a larger population where you can apply it to other needs, other necessities of life. And again, bringing on this new wave, this new revolution, the industrial revolution. All right, so the seed drill, Jethro tool, not the band, not the band. Anybody? No, okay, just kidding. All right, so with the revolution, other means where we see this grow into the industrial revolution is that these wealthier farmers that can afford these new products, these new mechanisms like a seed drill, well, they start buying up some of these smaller properties, these smaller farms. And your local farmer now, well, he just got bought out, right? He lost the land that was maybe handed down to him from generation to generation to generation. So you see these larger, wealthier people, let's say these larger corporations starting to form around agriculture, right? So as they buy up the farm fields, they apply it and utilize these new innovations to help grow this food supply. Well, one problem is that these people that had these farms before, right? These generational farmers, these smaller farmers, let's say that really didn't have the capital as, let's say, a wealthier one. Now, what do now? They're out of a job, right? So, well, they have to go somewhere else. They gotta find a new opportunity, have to find a new job, and that's gonna be in the cities, right? That's gonna be in these new industrialized areas, right? Well, we'll talk about this term here today called urbanization. And urbanization, have we ever heard of this before? Anyone? Urbanization? Something? Elena, thank you. Yeah, right. So as you have these populations migrating to these cities for a job opportunity, for a new way of life, to provide for their family. And that's gonna start new jobs, right? That's gonna build this innovation. Okay, we're gonna mention about England and how it starts there. But the biggest thing is that these wealthier farmers, they are more equipped. They have the newest and latest trends and mechanisms to help apply and grow more products and goods. And, well, they're a lot more efficient. So in other words, they're solving that food supply, that food shortage, and they can grow into other avenues. All right, crop rotation. I know we talked a little bit about that way back in the Middle Ages, but now it's becoming a little bit more sophisticated. Now, thanks to that scientific revolution, right, you have these ideas of nutrients and different types of minerals within the soil that will help create a stronger yield, create a stronger growth, right, seasonal growth of crops. So, yeah, there's a lot of different factors here leading to this industrial revolution. And it actually starts first with agriculture. All right, so population growth, like I mentioned, greater food supply means a population boom. And as these generational farmers, these farmers that really don't have this massive land like and these mechanisms, let's say like these other wealthier farmers, they gotta go somewhere else. And they move to these larger cities. All right, we'll talk about immigration a little bit, right? We'll mention about how the United States is gonna accept this industrial revolution early on as well, right? And this will happen more towards the second wave, right? So right now, we're gonna get to the first wave. Real quick, I'm gonna transition back to the vocab since this is where we left off yesterday. I wanted to get to this yesterday, but just ran short of time. All right, so here are your terms for today. I don't know how far we'll get. Actually, perfect. We'll do this. All right, so we got the first wave. urbanization, textiles, assembly line. Okay, we'll mention about the assembly line a little bit more towards this second wave, but it's kind of being applied during the first wave, kind of, you still have a term for it. And they don't really advance it as much as what we see with Henry Ford during the second wave, but during the first wave, I want to see it kind of. All right, then we'll mention about a few of these, a few of these innovators of the time, right, of this first wave. A lot of it being revolved around textiles, clothing, okay, and even interchangeable parts. So as a product you buy, let's say it's a musket, right? There's a lot of different parts to it. So if you break the musket, well, you didn't have really anybody building these other parts for it, where you can just replace a broken part and put a part that's not broken, right? A new product, a new part, a new part to it. So in other words, you don't have to scrap the whole good because one part breaks. Now you can just interchange that broken part, you're good to go. So I'll mention about that with Eli Whitney. We'll mention that and talk about the cotton gin and how this is going to explode a new marketplace for other resources. All right, so there you go. I'll give you guys some time. All right, so we're going to start here with urbanization. Yeah, I kind of talked about that already, but with textiles, the assembly line, right? We'll mention about this first wave of the Industrial Revolution. Real quick, write down for this first wave. Where does it start? Where do you guys see? Where does it start? Where does this happen? All right, Jason, go ahead. All right, it happens right around the late 1700s, moving into the 1800s. Good. Okay. So if you want to put that down for a time frame, great. But where did it happen? Where did this happen? Austin? Uh, well, yeah, it was Great Britain. Good job. England, right? So we've been talking about England for a while. And there's reasons why it happened. One of the reasons is because, well, let's face it, they have a huge empire, don't they? Yeah. As you look out on the map, it's a pretty small island. It really is. But their colonies make up for it. They got a lot of resources, they got a lot of land, meaning they got a lot of people too. Slavery, yeah, fortunately, right? But in any case, they have a huge, massive labor force, okay, and they have resources that are everywhere. All right, real quick, what else do we have here? Mechanisms. What's powering these mechanisms in the first wave of the Industrial Revolution? What's powering? Jason? Steam, yeah, good job. So you got steam powered engines. Good. Okay, what about the source of fuel? What are they using as fuel? Fluid. Coal, yeah, good job. Good. And they're utilizing iron to build these mechanisms, build these different types of products and goods. Right. So we'll mention about during the second wave how this changes a bit. Right. But this first wave happens in Great Britain. You want to put late 1700s, moving into 1800s, that'd be great. And then it'll change right around the mid 1800s. The second wave will kick off and there'll be a new leader. There'll be a new country that kind of takes over. Right. Steam powered engines, make sure you put that down. And then, yeah, Great Britain. Okay. Great Britain. All right. So with these terms here, we're going to talk about them today. Here we go. All right, so the energy revolution. So like I was mentioning, when it comes to these sources of energy, this first wave, well, it's important to be right around a source of water, right? Flowing water. And for England, well, they got a lot of natural rivers. Bless you, bless you. For Texas. All right, so when it comes down to it, all right, England is a perfect spot for this first wave because, yeah, they are an island. I get that. But when it comes to the flowing of rivers and natural moving waterways, they can use that to harness the power of it, right? Hydropower. They can use water mills to help power these mechanisms, right? Especially when it comes to textiles, when it comes to weaving clothing. Right? So also coal, like I mentioned, coal is going to be another fuel source here, right? One of the main fuel sources. Right, so I guess you could put hydropower too for the first wave. That'd be good too. But coal power is where we're moving, right? That direction we're moving. So they're harnessing the burning of this coal and utilizing a kind of like a steam pot in a way, like these chambers here, that the steam will help move these pistons to maneuver these mechanisms to create whatever good you want. Right. So they're powering these factories with hydropower, the water, and coal. Right? So there you go. There you have it. So this energy revolution. All right, we'll talk about the second wave. We'll see something different. We'll mention about electricity. We'll mention about natural gas, oil, right? How that's going to be utilized to power these mechanisms. All right, so James Watt, he creates the first steam-powered engine. Okay. And like I mentioned, with the steam-powered engine, you can apply it to many different things. Steamboat, yep, you got it. Right? You think about the train, yep, transportation, that's key, especially when it comes to moving products and goods from one place to another. Or a military, right? Yeah, if you have interconnection, that means you're going to be more advanced. You can get troops to places quick, fast, and efficient. You can get goods and materials to the marketplace fast and efficient, where you can make those goods more affordable then, right? Let's face it. If you have the transportation, you get the resources to the factories to the marketplaces. Great, awesome. And that's going to make the standard of living of all people a lot better, a lot higher. And well, we'll mention with England, they have a different economic system than most, right? It's not controlled by the monarchy. No, it's capitalism, right? They have the free market, which allows these businesses to innovate, to try to inspire new changes, to create these new inventions, to make life a lot easier, right? As you have the competition of these companies duking it out against one another. That's why it happens in Great Britain. The biggest thing here, James Watt creates a steam engine. And this is going to really revolutionize the means of production, but also the advancement of these countries in more of a modern age. So as you can see, 1769, that's why I said the late 1700s, where this first wave starts, okay? All right, so here's more of a, I guess, a better look at how these steam engines are powering factories. Okay, so how they would harness the energy of the coal as it would burn right inside this water within a pot in this chamber, and the pressure of the steam would help move these mechanisms, help push and maneuver right this mechanism in order to power different types of products and goods and production in these factories. So like I mentioned, textiles, that's going to be the big thing, right? But early on, they utilized hydropower, water power. And then, well, as you kind of ran out of room near these flowing rivers, you had to go somewhere else. You had to go internal, right? You had to go inward, let's say in the land. So they had to use something else, which is, you got it, coal powered, steam powered engines. All right, so Britain, so England, yeah, they're the ones who started. So like I mentioned, 1700s, late 1700s, late, right? Moving into the mid 1800s, this first wave begins. And like I mentioned, England, where this all begins, it starts right up here. I know it looks like a small island, I get that, but they have a lot of natural flowing rivers that go in between them. They have a lot of resources when it comes to coal and iron. Believe it or not, it's a small island, I know, right? And well, they have a lot of callings, let's face it, right? They have a lot of territories that are around the world where they can bring these other resources in to make these finalized goods. And they control the production. Let's face it too, right? Who controls the high seas? Who controls the high seas? Great Britain, right? That's a no-brainer. We already knew that. We already talked about that during the Napoleonic Age. So they had a lot going for them. And like I mentioned, their economic system, capitalism, is helping generate these new innovations, to help bring on these new innovations before anybody else. All right, we'll talk about it in the second wave, right? When we get to electricity, oil, natural gas. Well, the United States is going to take over. Japan and Germany. Wait, Japan and Germany? Wait a minute, we're going to be fighting these two here soon enough. Yeah, you can see where this is going to go. Right, whoever controls the new means of innovation, well, they're going to lead the way when it comes to military strength. They're the ones that are going to be innovating these new weapons of warfare. Oh, man. So you can see how these players, these countries, are going to definitely lead into a new future where they're going to control us. Bless you. All right, so exploration, colonization, like I mentioned, Great Britain, they have a lot of colonies. They have a lot of territories around the world. And they controlled parts of India during this time, parts of South Africa, Asia, right? They had the 13 colonies up until a little bit of a point, right? Obviously, we won our independence, so that's gone. But, right, they still have possessions there in modern-day Canada, right? The Central America, even parts of South America. So they have colonies everywhere that's helped fueling this industrial wave. Like I mentioned, Great Britain, yeah, it's a small island, but they have colonies everywhere. But they do have natural flowing rivers, like I said. They have iron ore, they have coal, right? That's very abundant, even on that small island. And they have a booming population, thanks to this Agrarian Revolution. So they got a lot of people here that can work in these factories. All right, so like I just said, I talked about this quite a bit with the geography. Right? I mentioned about the rich coal deposits, right? You can see the iron ore as well. So in these red areas here, as you can see on the map, that's where you can see coal, iron, very abundant within the island of Great Britain. And again, that's not even talking about their territories. So yeah, that's why Great Britain. Can I move on? What? Oh, I talked about this already. Jason, right? I know about you guys, but waking up today, holy cow. Was it tough for some of you? Yeah. Huh?
It hasn't even been an hour. Relax.
No.
You are too hyper.
I'm recording here. YouTube's not gonna like that one. Yeah, babe. You fell fast. Can you do that, please? All right, 3, 2, 1, go. All right, so here we go. Here's a great quote that you guys can write down for the Empire of Great Britain. For England. Here it is, write it down. So the vast empire in which the sun never sets. So why Great Britain? You got it. They're the biggest empire at the time. They have possessions everywhere. Australia, I forgot to mention that too. So literally around the world, So that's a very true quote, right? A very good point of how this first wave happens in England. Right, like I mentioned, when it comes to political stability, we talked about it with France. Holy, French Revolution, that was brutal for the people, wasn't it? The Jacobins, right? All these new and lightened ideas that really put them down a wrong path. That reign of terror killed thousands of people. There's a lot of chaos. There's a lot of anarchy. And well, for Great Britain, they didn't have that. Like I mentioned early on, they had a transition to what kind of monarchy? Wasn't absolute anymore. Wasn't divine right, but what kind was it? They don't, yeah, constitutional monarchy. So Parliament held more power than the king, right? The king was just there as a figurehead. Or as it, come on. So political stability, that's one reason why we see it as one, right? That's a very good point here when it comes to this first wave. Right, so when it comes to the representation of the people, they got it, they do, right? Even though we broke away, right? Even though the United States, right? We found our independence from Great Britain because of no taxation without representation. I get that, but Great Britain still, for the European powers, were so far advanced, so ahead of the time, and that's why people were okay with the direction of the country. All right, so private investment, like I mentioned with capitalism, yeah, that's really going to help inspire a lot of change, bring on this innovation, and help develop new inventions that are going to make people's lives a lot easier, to help people afford these products and goods that they never had before. So in other words, capitalism, competition in the workplace, in the marketplace, that's going to help advance and innovate and change, right? Capitalism still to this day, right, is helping bring a lot of people out of poverty, right? When it's unchecked, yeah, that's where it gets a little ugly, right? And where you have these business owners controlling the means of capital and not giving enough to the workers, that people actually put in the work. And we'll talk a little bit about that here towards the end of this chapter and this topic, right? Where we see social change, where we see workers going up against some of these stronger business owners. But with capitalism, it does bring on the greatest inventions, the greatest means of raising the standard of living of people. All right, so private investment. I know we talked a little bit about joint stock companies. You guys remember talking about that during the age of exploration? Yeah, okay. All right, so factors of production. Here's an easy way to remember it. Land, natural resources like coal, rivers, harbors, etc. Again, England is an island, right? They have natural flowing rivers that run throughout the whole island itself. Right? They have harbors everywhere, right? They're surrounded by water, and they have the strongest navy, right? That's what led to them having a strong navy. So they control the waters, right? Control the waters. That means you control the trade. That means you can really tariff goods if you like, if you want, right? Obviously now in the United States, we are the ones that control the high seas, control the trade routes, and that helps. That obviously brings on a lot of good things for our standard of living, okay? And like I mentioned, when it comes to these colonies, these territories, they have a lot of resources that are helping fuel these new mechanisms, helping fuel these new textile corporations and businesses, and bringing on this new transition of transportation with trains and steamboats. Okay, so land, right? Obviously, coal, iron, right? Just in the island itself, they have a huge abundance of it. They have a huge amount of it, right? Even in that small island, but they're bringing it from everywhere else too. So they got a lot of territories. Labor, right? So thanks to that agrarian revolution, thanks to the production of food and crops and goods, right? Now the population is booming. Right, as the population booms, okay, people can afford food, obviously, so their standard of living's raising. Their immunity, right? Their immune systems are strengthening because they have food now in abundance. Right, so people are living a lot longer. And well, with that, that's going to overall help apply new changes to the economy, to the way of life. All right, so labor. And again, I know England has a bigger population for the time, but they're also diving into India. They're going into Australia. They're going to parts of South Africa. Right? They have labor everywhere. And for some of these territories, it's free slavery, right? Well, that'll come to an end here soon enough. Jenna, you got that? Okay. Finally, capital. They got the money, right? Great Britain. Right? We've been talking about them for quite a bit. They haven't really lost too many wars, let's face it. Right? They haven't. So for Great Britain, they control high seas, they control trade. If you can control trade, you're bringing in a lot of money through taxes, through tariffs, through the means of just having these territories. So capital, that's one of these other where they're advancing, they're innovating. And thanks to capitalism, right, you have this competition in the workplace that's bringing on these new inventions. It's bringing on these new changes in life. All right, so Industrial Revolution, here we go. Eli Whitney, you just wrote him down as a vocab term, right? One of his biggest claim to fame is interchangeable parts. So muskets is a good example, right? So back in the day, before they had these interchangeable parts, once you created a product or a good and it broke, well, you had to buy a new one. Darn, sucks, right? Rather than just doing that, well, Whitney thought, why don't we just break it down a little bit easier? Why don't we break these products down and these goods down into different types of parts that we can just interchange if one breaks? Let's face it, in warfare, you're putting a lot of pressure on these products like muskets and weapons. When it comes to trains and automobiles, eventually, right? You're putting a lot of stress as you're making these literally combustion engines. There's explosions happening inside the engine itself. So it's nice, it's easy, you just interchange that part that breaks. So in other words, I know it sounds pretty simplistic, but interchangeable parts is what's really going to help advance this first wave of the Industrial Revolution. All right, let's say with a musket, if the hammer breaks on it, you just change that part out, you're good to go. Right, that weapon can still fire. It's not like you have to scrap the whole thing. And you're not wasting goods, you're not wasting materials, you're not wasting resources. Okay. Also, his other claim to fame, probably the biggest one at the time, which is going to spark even more of a demand for slavery, especially in the southern states, is the cotton gin. Right. So when it comes to cotton, it's going to be the resource that takes over. Right, one of these cash crops, like tobacco. Remember talking about that? Tobacco, but cotton now is taking over. And this is going to fuel these textile companies in Great Britain. So Great Britain is really demanding for this cotton as this new invention is the seeding, right? The seeds from the cotton. And no longer do you have to have hundreds of workers that get the cotton where they pull the seeds out. It takes a lot of time. It's monotonous. You guys know what I mean by monotonous? Yeah, it's kind of, well, dulling down your brain, right? As you're just doing the same job over and over and over again. Now with this mechanism, with this pronged invention, right? It's literally working on a wheel. You put the cotton in on one side, as the prongs run through the cotton, it deseeds it pretty quick and fast. And what does it do? It brings on demand for more cotton. And unfortunately for the United States, right? Slavery in the southern states. So this is where we're going to see eventually rubber hit the road and start the what war in the United States? Naomi? The Civil War. Good. All right, so textiles, like I mentioned, textiles is going to be this big production, this new wave here for this first industrial revolution. So yeah, transportation's a big thing with the steam engines, but textiles is going to take over. Clothing, right? Clothing. Before these textile factories, well, there is known as the cottage industry, where these people just work from their home and sew different types of cloths together. It took forever. It took a long time. And there was a thing called a two-way dress. I don't know, a double-sided dress. I don't know if you guys maybe knew a little bit about that. So back in the day, when it comes down to the colonial times especially, all right, women would wear these dresses where if one side got a little dirty, well, can't really wash it, it's gonna take some time, and we don't really have another dress because cloth is really hard to get your hands on, right? So they would just switch it inside out. Oh, okay, easy solution, right? Is it clean? On that side, right? On that side. They don't have to wash it right away. Some of you are probably thinking, that's what I do with my underwear. Just kidding, just kidding. So, all right, with the textile companies and factories that are taking over in Great Britain, their fuel is cotton. They need it, right? They need it. And that's where the demand from these southern states, this cash crop really takes off. Right, indigo is another thing, especially when it comes to dyes, right? How you can color these different fabrics and these different cloths and make these different looks of clothing and fabric. So yeah, textile. We'll mention about these textile mechanisms here when it comes to the spinning mule, spinning jenny. They're going to be powered by by running water, right? Flowing water, right? As these water mills are going to be abundant across Great Britain, next to flowing rivers. All right, so here are some of these inventions of the textile companies. So I'll just quickly go through them. I'll just give you a quick look, explain a little bit about it, and keep moving on, because a lot of them just do the same exact thing. They just get a little bit more advanced throughout time. All right, so here's one, the flying shuttle. So no longer do you have just a bunch of women sitting in a home, in a little home here in this cottage system where they're sewing these fabrics together. But now with the flying shuttle here, you can actually bring about 10, 12 different threads all at once. So you can make these fabrics a lot faster. You can make clothing and blankets a lot faster than you could before. So this would work more as a stepping pedal, right? So there's really no means of hydropower that's needed for this, but you would use this as it would kind of go back and forth as you would, obviously thread these different types of cloths together. So yeah, this was more of a mechanism where you kind of have to replace the threads over time again, and it would take quite a bit of time, right? But it was a lot faster, obviously, than a bunch of women just sewing these forms of clothing and dresses together. Here's another one. So the spinning jenny, as you can see, they can become very innovative over time. And this would be powered by hydropower, by a water mill that was right next to a flowing river. And again, this would help move this mechanism. As you can see, she's kind of cranking it as well, but flowing these threads together, right? Creating these cloths, creating these blankets, these clothing at a fast, efficient manner. So things are getting innovative. Here we go. Here's another one, a water frame. So again, no longer do you need any crank system. No longer do you need someone, say, stepping on a pedal anymore, but you're utilizing the hydropower to help power and move these mechanisms. Obviously, you need someone there to help put a new spool, a new thread, right, to the fabric, to the mechanism. But overall, it's powered by water. You don't really have to do anything when it comes to cranking a wheel or stepping on a pedal. And finally, here's the last one, a spinning mule created by Samuel Crompton. This is advanced in textile industries from here on out. And this is again powered by water mill or even powered by steam powered engines that are focused outside the factory. And as you can see, thousands of threads, right, powered by hydro, powered by even a coal mechanism with a steam power. And this is overall the fastest way to create fabrics and different types of clothing. And then needs a necessity. So overall, it's spinning mule, man, it's really advanced. So now clothing is becoming more accessible. Standard living is going to go higher. Things are going pretty smooth for this first wave. Real quick, last thing here. Where to start again? First wave? Huh? Great Britain. Good job. When are we talking? What time period?
They say 1700.
All right, late 1700s to the mid 1800s. Good job. All right. What kind of fuel sources do we got? What we got? Coal, okay, and hydropower. Good. Perfect timing. See us.
I'm ready.